Good evening. This is Edward with sonsofgod.com. It's Sunday evening, May 12th, and it's Mother's Day. We always like to get a post in at least once a week, and I think this is pretty much the format that we'll have moving forward, is a Sunday evening message, word, or update. And tonight, we just briefly want to talk about mothers, essentially. It brought to mind so much of what we're in the midst of right now, in the birthing of the sons in the earth. It's an admirable thing to birth a child into the world, and to be a mother. Although this timeline that we're in now in the earth is a rather difficult one, and it's a hard time to bring children into the world with everything that's going on. But the real thing that's happening is that God is bringing forth the spiritual mothers, what we would call the mothers in Israel, who truly are birthing the kingdom of God. It's more than just birthing one son here or another one here, but really the calling for all of the sons of God is to birth the kingdom. And that is what we're in the process of doing, although it can be conflicting, it can be challenging, it can be perplexing, because things aren't as they appear, and things don't seem to be moving as quickly as you want. And sometimes, if not a great deal of the time, it's very difficult to really see the hand of the Lord in what's unfolding when you're so close to it. It's one thing to get back and get a broad scope of a picture, and you can see. But when you're right in the midst of the forest, it can be difficult to really see how the Lord is moving exactly, because you're in a day-to-day, hand-in-hand combat, really, to bring forth and to fulfill your own destiny. We know that the church is the one that's birthing the kingdom. It's talks about it in the book of Revelation. And you could say, well, what are we talking about? Well, I can tell you what we're not talking about. We're not talking about church as we know it. All of these buildings and edifices and millions of people that go to church on Sunday, they do not comprise the church. The church is the ecclesia, which defined is those who are called out. Just to go and have a revelation of the Lord and or go to a church is not really being called out. But the spiritual church is made up of those whom God puts together as He wills. And Paul talked about that. It's God who puts together the church. We think, well, just because you know someone who loves the Lord and they may or may not be on the same path, that, well, they're automatically factored in and they're part of the church. But I think there's layers and levels to everything. In my Father's house are many dwelling places, many levels, and you might have a certain level of church that has some, validity to it on a very basic level. But what we're talking about is the true church that God has not only called out, but He is the one who has threaded them together to be the church. And that's not something that man can do. It's not something that you or I can do just because we set our determination and say, okay, I'm part of the church, and I'm part of those called out. This must be something that God does. God sets you in. Isn't that how Paul talks about it? I think it's in Ephesians, but he sets you in as he wishes. Someone say, well, I'm a prophet. I want to be an apostle. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be that. You will be whom God has called you to be, and as he has positioned you in the body to be that aspect of him. So the sons are being knit together as a church. And the church is in travail to see the birth of the sons. And we're dealing with timelines that are very hard to understand because in a very real sense, this has already happened. I know that this might sound kind of crazy, and maybe that's why we don't have too many people follow us these days, because we're really outside the box and then we've jumped off the cliff. But I mean, there's many levels to what God is doing. All of creation is in travail. All of creation is entering into this act of birthing. All of creation are part of the spiritual midwives to bring in the kingdom. You are part of the spiritual midwife to bring in the kingdom. And that's whether it's male or female, it doesn't matter. The sons are the midwives that God is using to birth the kingdom into this level of reality. And we don't understand how it's happening. And things are difficult to connect as far as the dots go, or the pieces of the puzzle. It can be very perplexing because we don't quite understand how it's all happening. But it is happening. God is birthing the church. God is birthing the kingdom. It's very mystical because you can say, well, what is the kingdom? And you can say, well, perhaps you've seen visions of the kingdom and the days of the kingdom when so many prophecies will be fulfilled. One of them, the abundance of the sea will flow into the kingdom, to Mount Zion. There are many great prophecies about the days of the kingdom, the days of the reversal and the upward flow. It's very interesting. And so you can say, well, that aspect of the kingdom is true. But in another esoteric sense, God is birthing the kingdom in you and I. And how do you measure that? How do you quantify that? How do you understand that? Because with the mind of the soul, it's very hard, it's really impossible to understand. God is birthing into the plane of the natural and many other planes that exist in the whole realm of the kingdom. He is birthing the kingdom, but he is birthing the sons. Who are the sons? Well, the kingdom is with them and within them. In many ways, they are the kingdom. But let's just take it back a step. When Jesus said, the kingdom is within you. It's been hidden to the eyes of the sons. And so the sons have struggled with the day of the partial, the day of only seeing in part of who they truly are, and consequently what they truly can accomplish. This birthing that's happening, talks about it in Revelations, the birthing of the male child caught up to the throne. So many things are hard to put your finger on because they've happened, yet they're happening, and they will happen. And none of what I just said makes any sense. What do you mean it's happened? It's happening and it's going to happen. It's hard to understand timelines. It's hard to understand that we are stepping into a threshold, over a threshold, where time does not exist. Time only exists here in the natural plane. It doesn't exist in the realm of the kingdom. And as the sons transition from one level to another, they're leaving time behind. So it becomes something that you can't understand. What I'm saying, I know I don't really understand fully, by any means. What we are entering into is the eternalness of God, the eternalness of the Melchizedek ministry, having neither a beginning nor an end. Can Satan take you out? Not really. Not really. The sons are eternal. And they're here this last round to enter into their inheritance and to complete what needs to be done. That's why you're here. And that's the travail and the midwifery that's going on right now. Midwifery, I made that word up, but that's what's happening. And the hard thing is, it's so hard to put your finger on the day-to-day battle, intercession, and everything that's happening because you're so close to it. To take a few steps back, that would be great. But oftentimes we aren't afforded that luxury. Everything that's going on in the earth, and there's a lot going on. There's a lot of turmoil, a lot of saber rattling, just a lot of junk, a lot of commotion and tumult and chaos. And now there's rumors about financial this and financial that. There's a lot of things being turned upside down. And that was the prophecy in Hebrews. My word's going to come and it's going to, just turn everything upside down. So we're in the midst of all of that. But what's really happening? It's the birthing of the sons. It's the birthing of the kingdom, both externally and internally. But for my book, it's taking too long. I feel like my prayer is one with the cloud of witnesses as they go before God and say, "How long, O Lord? How long, O Lord, before you avenge us?" There's a groaning that is in the realm of spirit and a cry before God that says, "How long, O God? How long? How much longer?" You can read through the book of Revelations and the prayers go up as incense and smoke and, just so much imagery. But we're in the midst of this timeline. And it's hard to understand the groaning that's going on within you. Just because you might have a good day or a bad day, you're unaware or you're aware, it doesn't matter. The groaning is going on 24/7. A groaning, like Paul said, so deep, words can't express it. It's not on a plane of vibration or frequency that you can identify. You know, sometimes when you have a day and you're just kind of worried, or you're working through things and you can kind of feel your groaning and you can kind of identify it. But this is something on a much higher frequency that it's really hard to identify it, because what's happening is on such a deep level within your being. A groaning and a cry for the birthing of the kingdom and the birthing of the sons. I remember a vision several years ago as I was in the meditative state awaiting before God, and I saw in front of me a mighty warrior. And I was outside myself, or wherever I was, I looked and my belly was big, and I knew I was in labor, in birth, to give birth. And the warrior appeared. I stretched out my hands, and he placed upon my hands 2 swords, and then he disappeared. No one said this was going to be easy. The birthing of the sons is a mighty battle rages as the sons wield the sword. The enemy contests what God is unfolding right now in the birthing of the sons, in the birthing of the kingdom, on a level of frequency and dimension that has not been here. It's like the kingdom is breaking free and beginning to emerge on levels of reality that it has not been. The kingdom has been over here in this realm of spirit, if you want to look at it that way. But something is happening, and the kingdom is beginning to emerge, penetrate, and break through onto levels of reality where it hitherto has not existed. And with that, the sons as well. And so the chaos happening in the earth is only going to get greater and greater, because the earth cannot handle what's coming to pass. And the earth itself is in travail. And what that means, at some point we will begin to see earth changes happening, because the earth is in travail for the sons and for the kingdom, because all of creation is in travail. Isn't that what it says in the book of Romans? All creation travails for the release of the sons of God. Therein lies their release. They're in travail. But we're not just talking about orders of spirit. We're talking about nature. We're talking about everything. The earth, the solar system, the universe, the planets, travail. Don't eliminate it. Don't, narrow it down to just an order of species or elemental or fairy. It's all of creation. And the earth at some point will begin to manifest deep changes. So we send our blessings to all of you, because you're in the battle, but you're in the process of travail right now. I don't even want to talk about the warfare. We have that with us all the time. But we're in the travail of the kingdom. Know that. Let that be seared into your conscious. No matter what you do, going throughout your day, throughout your evening, whether you go to bed and you rise up, whatever, whether you feel spiritual or you feel absolutely nothing is happening, it doesn't matter. Know that you're in the travail to bring forth something that has never been brought forth before this time. And that's part of the calling of the sons. We're in travail. We've linked hands with the cloud of witnesses. How long, O God? How long? And we send our blessings to all of you this evening. Amen.